Hello there, this is Oscar Mikey and welcome back to Europa Universalis 4 Granada Re-Reconquista Ironman run. We are setting about... In fact, I believe we've just completed converting the last of our provinces to the Muslim religion group. Meantime, we're fabricating some claims in Castile with an eye towards finally getting to the stage where we're comfortable in launching this assault against Castile. And just taking a look here, we've got our two idea groups. We picked humanists in the last episode. And we'll see about maxing out our maritime idea group going forward. You can see we've got one claim, one de jure claim in Granada. That's a province that will always remain our core. The rest have been fabricated. It's been a long time since we were ejected from the Iberian Peninsula by Castile, but we have vengeance on our minds, and they're going to be our target very shortly. Sending out another missionary to Madeira. Black news indeed, my emir, some stupid for this country is losing fine behavior. Oh boy, okay, so, yeah. So there goes a faction leader. Gonna go ahead and make sure that hasn't negatively impacted our relations with the Ottomans. There goes a faction leader in a regency council. And we were just a few years away from launching this war, so yeah. That's a big problem. Our regency council sucks. It's got 2 administrative monarch power and 1 military, 3 in total, which puts it about 6 below average. And we're going to be struggling onto this Regency Council for 8 years. So that's going to unfortunately push back the completion date of this achievement by 8 years. So that's a shame. We were in a pretty strong position and we're certainly considering the possibility of declaring war on Castile very shortly. But all our best laid plans have been frustrated by what can be considered a pure act of God. Something to that effect. So in the meantime, nothing really much to do. We're just going to have to wait for that Regency Council to expire. It does give me a bit more time to return to maybe bolstering my economy a little bit by... I've just started the construction of some temples in a couple of provinces. And probably for the remainder of this Regency Council, that's what my focus is going to be on. Simply constructing buildings, bolstering our economy, and continuing to narrow the tech lead that the Western factions still have against us. So war reparations are expiring soon, but not yet. So we can rely on them for a little longer. Plenty of time to start constructing buildings. And we're going to start with temples first. Now we're going to move on to trade buildings and workshops, which bolster production. Alright, let's see what we can do. Increase income by 0.1. Now that does take... I've done these calculations before. That does take at least 50 years to pay it off, but probably going to take slightly longer than that to get this achievement. So good harvest, 50 administrative power, great. But yeah, these buildings, might as well start constructing them now, since again we have this downtime forced upon us by the RNG guards. All our provinces are sprawled by estates. Don't really have an opinion on that. They have advantages, disadvantages. They increase autonomy by a 25% minimum. So we can demand administrative support. I'll go ahead and take that for 100 administrative monarch power. Demand military support as well. There we go. And demand diplomatic support isn't gonna be around until 1545, so that's something to take note of. Looks like Portugal's having some noble rebels spawn in their capital. Our heir is 8 years old. That's going to be a problem. There they go. The Portuguese are attacking those noble rebels. Who will win? Looks like the Portuguese are going to win. Pretty easily. Yeah, just building these temples. Not really much to do, unfortunately. A diplomat was discovered fabricating a claim in Portugal. That's going to contribute to aggressive expansion. However, we only really have to worry about aggressive expansion with the Iberian factions anyway, since Tunis is our ally, so not really much of a problem. Completed a mission. Select a new one. And we got one more claim to fabricate on Castile, and then we'll be ready for this next war. And this is going to be the first of our overland invasions into Iberia, like I keep saying. We have sufficiently narrowed the tech lead. Aragon has declared war on Castile. Interesting. Damn it, if we didn't have this goddamn Regency Council, this would be the opportune time to strike. Go ahead and invest in another administrative idea in Humanist. That now gives us the reduced technology cost, which is great. Council of something. Too much text to bother reading that. Sorry, you just have to pause the video, I'm afraid. Not reading that. Yes, so there's really not much to do now. This would have been the opportune time to strike Castile, because they're going to be battered in this war. On the other hand, the war might drag on, and if it lasts around 7 or 8 years, we may still have the opportunity to strike Castile from a weakened position. So our heir will come of age in 6 years. Yeah, we might actually, that might be a sufficient window. And we've got that all-important humanist idea that reduces separatism by 10 years. Really strong idea for expansion. Separatism will lose military power. I will take separatism any day of the week. Popular religion. All these decisions. Lose loyalty and influence. Gain loyalty and influence. Well, their loyalty is already extremely high, but influence is still quite low, relatively speaking, so go for the increased loyalty. Yeah, it's about time we started constructing buildings. I'm pretty positive about the fact that we're finally investing heavily into idea groups. That's going to help us a lot. Idea groups are very strong, particularly the ones we selected. Maritime plays right into our strengths. Humanist is going to set us up extremely well for when we do finally declare war on Castile and start conquering territory. Castile looks like it's being beaten up. Don't know who's going to win, who's going to be the victor. It looks like they're sort of going toe-to-toe with Aragon. But then again, Castile has that gold-producing province, so they will probably win that war. Interesting that Aragon would declare war on Castile this late into the game. The Iberian wedding hasn't fired, which has only helped us. With that said, if you're trying to replicate this success, you might not have to pursue this overall sort of overarching strategy. It may well be that Aragon declares war on Castile early on and you're simply able to move in and conquer. But that's not really that interesting in terms of a playthrough video, so going with the more robust strategy. Alright, so we're now at our highest military tech level we can reach. That's going to be perfect for this subsequent war. I haven't really decided my army compositions yet, but that's something we can do closer to the time. So, 5x speed, let's race ahead here. Go as fast as we possibly can. Since we've got nothing to do. Another maritime idea, increase naval maneuver, that would be really handy. Increase blockade efficiency. Interestingly enough, increased blockade efficiency is going to be really, really useful for this upcoming war. Blockade efficiency is pretty strong, I find, especially with these naval strategies. Much stronger than certainly embargo efficiency, so that plays right into our hands. Papal States clergy curtailed. That's the first time I've seen another nation deal with a clergy dominance event. Interesting to note. Yeah, Aragon is being beaten up pretty hard by Castile. That's a shame, since Aragon's not really my next target. It's going to be Castile, indeed. So we're fabricating claims in Portugal as well. You never know. If they join Castile in the defensive alliance, then we may be able to take some territory from them, provided we can occupy some fortifications. Just taking a look at the alliances here. Ottomans are doing rather well. Don't really have much in the way. Tunis has declared war on Aragon. Interesting. Remember when I was saying earlier about the fact that Tunis had taken Malta? Well, as I mentioned, that's given them a stepping stone into fabricating claims in Sicily, and it looks like that's exactly what they're going to do. They're actually launching a amphibious landing in Majorca, and there's no fortification there, and Aragon isn't exactly going to be able to contest that because, of course, we destroyed their fleet, aren't we? So Tunis is probably going to win that war. It is going to detract from the burden Castile's going to bear in prosecuting the war against Aragon by tying down Aragonese troops. Nonetheless, it does help our ally, the Dakar War. That's quite late, I think, for Sweden. Usually that occurs much earlier. Might be wrong about that, but we can no longer claim that Almeria is a province else. Right, we'll go ahead and set about refabricating that. Yes, Castile is mopping up the Aragonese forces. They've almost completely occupied another damn decision, plausible deniability. Well, we'll skip through that. Yeah, Aragon's getting demolished. And Tunis is set to grow a lot stronger as well as a result of that war. Interesting developments here. Better late than never, I guess. We'll have to see how that shapes dynamic going forward. Cultural ties, my absolute favourite single idea as part of any idea group in the game. That reduces the development level to get an accepted culture from 20 to 10%, which is a massive contribution overall, especially to anyone who likes to expand aggressively and subsume cultures. And it's going to be really handy. It's going to preclude the need for us to force convert any cultures, which is good. Oh, yeah, okay. Ottomans are at war with Aragon as well. So Aragon's fighting Castile, Tunis, and the Ottomans. interesting stuff. Ottomans must have joined the call to arms that Tunis raised. So Aragon is going to be pummeled into oblivion. There goes Aragon. It's a shame because, you know, they were... Well, it's not really a shame. We are going to need to take Valencia and all those provinces to complete the achievement, but they're probably going to be occupied by Castile in that stage. So we'll set about building some transport ships, since we are now getting to the stage where we are going to start launching these amphibious landings. War's still going though. Our heir is about a year from coming of age. And it looks like we are going to arrive in time to take advantage of this conflict in the Iberian Peninsula. With that said, it looks like it's been, for the most part, a walkover, so Castile won't have been depleted too much. Interesting. In fact, if the Ottomans don't join our call to arms, it might actually be advisable waiting a little while until they're done beating up on Aragon. That way we'll ensure that we are able to commit overwhelming numbers to this conflict. Don't really need the Ottomans' fleet. It's more about tying down Castile's potential allies. Taking a look at the New World. Where England is doing rather well. We've got our outposts in Africa. In West Africa, I should say. And we're recruiting some artillery, so artillery is useful. I don't think we're at the stage where artillery is the decisive factor in land engagements, but it is useful, especially when you're going through those territories, those hills and mountains, where combat width is necessarily restricted. That's when artillery comes into its own at this stage in the game. So better to have some than none at all. Also, it's very useful in sieging down fortifications, of course. So I'm marshalling up forces. We're probably going to have to push ourselves way over the force limits. But that's fine. We've done so before, and our economy is significantly stronger. Recruit an admiral. Free fire, 2 maneuver. Better than nothing, I guess. Mercantilism or diplomatic power. Probably best going for mercantilism here. Boost our trade income by a little bit by adding to our overall provincial trade income modifiers. That's a mouthful to say. There we go. Al Nasrid, our new faction leader, has come of age. Efficiency in the navy, 50 diplomatic monarch power. So let's see this mission. Conquer Siena. Protect our brethren in Siena. Or Siena, I should say. Well, no, we're not going to be expanding in Africa. Those provinces are not at all viable. So let's go ahead and get these national decisions done with. And we'll start marshalling up our forces and prepare for the invasion. So the critical thing here is going to be landing sufficient troops in defensible terrain early on. Check their military power. $28,000 troops, that's not too bad. Is a little cause for concern. It doesn't appear they have any navy of note. No, they have 2 ships. Okay, that's gonna simplify things considerably. So here's the the plan of attack. We disembark our troops, and our number one priority is controlling the strait, which will be no problem at all, and occupying a non-fortified province. Once we've got that province occupied, we'll be able to directly disembark troops in the port. That's going to speed the rate at which we can ferry troops over to our bridgehead. We'll get our entire army across in a port. Then we'll start sieging down the defensible provinces. Start with Granada, I think, since that, if my memory serves me well, is a mountainous pass, and that's much easier to defend. So we'll be opting for the methodical advance, not taking any risks, just ferrying troops over. Recruit a new general, 1 fire, 2 shock. Not particularly good, but probably the baseline minimum in order to get this mission accomplished. So we've got 12 transport ships. Doesn't seem like enough, but that should be enough to get enough troops in Gibraltar. Will probably be my target, because that neither is a fortification, has obviously a harbour, and has mountainous terrain, which means that our 12,000 troops will be able to defend against any attacking force. So I'm looking for a disciplined advisor. Going to take out a loan because time is of the essence here. I want to get this war launched before we're placed in another Regency Council. And if you notice, Castile did win that war with Aragon, and they've went ahead and taken a bunch of territory. So I want to strike fast, capitalizing on Castile's relative weakness. We're asking for fleet basing rights from England. That is going to allow us to complete 100% blockade. Looks like Tunis is at war with someone. Are they at war with Portugal as well as Aragon? They probably are. That means that the likelihood of Castile having any defensive allies is quite low. So, their allies, they will. So Portugal is going to assist them, but Ottomans are not going to assist us. Dagnabbit. Well, Ottomans are currently engaged in a war with Aragon. Interesting. I probably have sufficient forces to deal with Castile by myself. Yeah, Portugal and Milan, that's not much of a threat. Declare war at the start of the month. See here, Ottomans will not join us because they're fighting in another war. If we waited a little longer, they'd join us. It's a hard question. But, screw that. We don't need the Ottomans. So, the plan of attack. We'll land in Cadiz. Seek to occupy that province quickly. And then ferry all our troops across the Straits of Gibraltar. And we're going to hire additional troops because we're going it alone. We're not going to rely upon the Ottomans. So we'll worry about the blockade later. Right now our priority is getting those troops across that strait. Now Portugal is a threat and they are heading a beeline straight for Cadiz. So we're going to have to get those troops ferried across extremely quickly. All about holding that all-important bridgehead. If we can occupy the province, which I believe takes us 30 days, we can stream troops across that strait and really hold on to any terrain. Yeah, we move over to Gibraltar. So we land at Cadiz, move to Gibraltar. Gibraltar has a defensible terrain and a river crossing. And we prepare our troops for embarkation. We'll ferry the first load over since it's going to take 30 days to occupy the province. And by the time those troops land, we should have that province occupied and we'll be able to send the remains over very quickly. And then the plan is to move over to Granada and we're going to just complete a methodical advance through southern Castile, gaining a foothold. Once we have those fortifications down, that will allow us to maneuver sufficiently. Right now, we wouldn't really be able to maneuver against the enemy forces because, of course, fortifications obstruct maneuver. So we'll take those fortifications down, then we'll focus on destroying the enemy army in the field. That's the plan here. 24,000 troops. Looking good, but we'll need more. We've got that province occupied. So that allowed a third wave to cross very quickly. Move into Granada. And right now I'm solely focused on sieging down the fortification in Granada. So there's 2 fortifications we've got to neutralise. That will free up our ability to move, thus allowing us to complete the encirclement of Castile's army. So it's a simple strategy, nothing particularly intricate, but before you declare war, it's always, especially when you're fighting a numerically superior force, it's always a good idea don't just declare war, have a sort of vague idea of what plan of attack you're going to utilise. Don't just assume it's going to be a walk in the park, always have some sort of plan here. So, as we anticipated, here comes Castile's army. They are heading into Gibraltar, which they will reoccupy. That is fine because we no longer need the port. We've got our third wave safely across. And since we're occupying the good defensive terrain in Granada, that is going to assist us greatly. Now we're way over the force limits here. But I'm doing that because we don't want to take any risks. If we lose the first battles, that would be a total disaster. And the reason why is our forces would have nowhere to retreat to. They'd be routed. Since we have more troops currently in Castile than we have transports, we won't be able to get them safely across. And with Castile's army parked in the south of Spain, we would not be able to really launch another amphibious landing without being overwhelmed in our beachhead. So very important you get the opening phases of any amphibious landing correct. Gotta make sure you commit with overwhelming forces. Get that all-important breachhead, which we will once we've occupied Granada down. And things are looking fairly well for us. We have a disadvantage in infantry, but we're in parity in terms of the amount of cavalry you can bring to the field. So things are looking good. That's all I'm saying. We've got Castile successfully blockaded. That's 100% blockade if ever I've seen one. Also, having taken all their islands off the coast of Africa, we've successfully isolated them from their colonies. So we're not going to have to deal with Castilian Brazil. $26,000 troops is a lot. Tunis is actually fighting Portugal. As you can see, they're doing a heck of a good job. There's the siege of Granada complete. So it looks like Tunis is going to destroy the Portuguese army. That is pretty incredible. They've done good work for once. Yeah, they've routed that Portuguese army. I will keep an eye on that and see if I can stack wipe it, depending on where it retreats to. But let's move into Cadiz. We're going to take a direct engagement. Castile is occupying poor defensive terrain. We have overwhelming troop numbers. We've got reinforcements that we're building in Tangier. So let's move in and see if we can take a set-piece engagement here in Cadiz. I'm hoping we can win this battle, but if we suffer heavy casualties, we'll be able to stream reinforcements across. So we do take the river crossing. We have inferior discipline, morale, but we do have a lot of cavalry. So let's see how these rolls. Oh, we do have a pretty mediocre general. You can see the amount of morale damage we've taken already because of our inferior troop numbers. So it looks like we got a bad shock roll there, suffering a lot of casualties. It's a good thing I built those reinforcements. We left nothing to chance here. Do not want to lose this battle. Absolutely, it's a must win. Ottomans will marriage, so there goes the Ottoman faction leader. Replaced by an equally awesome heir. Okay, so we got those 3,000 troops streaming into Cadiz, and hopefully they're going to get there in time. It's going to be close. Okay, so we actually lose the first battle, unfortunately, and here's a trick. If you want to stop reinforcements from disembarking and their movement locked out of transport ships, just move your fleet and that will break the movement lock. So, even though we had overwhelming troop numbers, we lost the battle. That just goes to show the effect of having inferior troop types. We didn't even get that unlucky with the rolls. We got below average, but thankfully we were able to send those reinforcements into Granada ASAP. That has prevented our army morale from dropping to 0, which would have had the potential for our army to be shattered. So we're marching up more reinforcements in the coast of Morocco, and we're going to get them over into Granada ASAP. Now we should be able to win this battle. See, low morale, very bad shock roll there, 0 to 8. But they are attacking into very poor terrain. And our superior numbers and artillery really helps us in these restricted combat widths. Yeah, another atrocious roll. So this is a pretty disastrous start. Another defeat. Also, our reinforcements were cut off and eliminated. So we're in Gibraltar again. I am going to try and stream forces over and see if I can stabilize this situation. This is really, really bad. So it just goes to show we're way over the force limits already, and we still don't have enough troops to spar with Castile's forces. They do. I always did say from the outset that they do have better troops than us by their very nature. So Gibraltar is another province with good defensive terrain. There's really nothing for it. I'm going to have to go ahead and recruit lots of additional mercenaries. Since our manpower has already plummeted, take a look at that. We're down to 4,800. This is demonstrative of the fact that we are actually still quite a small faction, and we elected not to go. We elected to go alone with our Ottoman allies. So interesting. The fortification in Granada has really saved us here. Now Castile can move into Granada, but they can't move into Granada and then out into Cadiz, because of course our fortification obstructs them. So that has given us time to regroup our forces. All the more reason why my strategy of slow and methodical advance, focusing on the first fortification first, has really paid off for us. If we had took a few battles without that fortification down, our army wouldn't have been able to retreat, basically, and we would have almost certainly been stacked right. But taking that fortification has really saved us. With that said, I don't really know if we can attack into that. We are probably going to have to let Granada be reoccupied by Castile. We're certainly not going to be able to take an offensive battle. If we can't win the opening battle, we're not going to win this battle. So I'm recruiting a lot of additional mercenaries, trying to bring my forces up to overwhelming numbers and see what we can do.